Sir, please start the live streaming.
Yeah, I have started. Carry on, okay?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, so thank you guys for joining. Uh, we'll start today's session, which is presented by Wynard House. It's Bagging the Cat, your journey to a top B school. So our speaker today is Parth, who is a student in IIM Sambalpur and who was also recently interned at Business Banking Group from ICICI Bank. Uh, I'll, wait, I'll share this metaphorical stage with Parth. On to you, Parth.
Yeah, thank you so much, Advait. It's a pleasure to be here, guys. And I'll just begin with sharing my screen with you all. So for this presentation, I would like to utilize the PowerPoint presentation that we have here. And just a few things before we get started. Firstly, if you have any doubt during the presentation, I would encourage you to just unmute yourself and speak up. It's fine. Don't think there is an interruption or anything. You can speak up right away, or you can drop the question in the chat box. We will be having a Q&A session in the final 15 minutes. And there we can address all your queries, where a batchmate from IIM Sambalpur will be joining, one of my batchmates. So we will try our best to address all your queries. Other than that, we will also be having an Excel sheet wherein you can drop your queries and I'll keep getting back to you. So let's start all the way from the beginning. So bagging the cat, your journey to a top B school, right? So there are some things that I would like to firstly start off by elaborating. That one thing is that IIMs are, yes, the top B schools of India, but there are a lot of other institutes that are also among the best that you can join. Some of them require different tests, a lot of which I have given. Like, let us say I attempted the IFT exam and then I attempted CAT. So I'll try to talk about it as much as I can, but if you have something related to another institute specifically, you can always reach out to me later. So this is a short and sweet introduction of me. I am a full-time MBA student at IIM Sambalpur. I am your batchmate. I'm a diploma level student at IIT Madras. I have recently founded the Public Policy Club at my institute, that is IIM Sambalpur, and I'm going to attempt my CFA exam L1 soon. So firstly, what is CAT? So let's get clear with the full form first of all. It is Common Admission Test. Very, very basic knowledge. But why am I telling you this? Is because I remember a lot of people messing up this question when they got it in their interview. So a lot of people confuse it with Common Aptitude Test or Central Aptitude Test or something like that. It is Common Admission Test. At times, the interviewer will just try to, trick you into answering the most basic questions. And that is when they will ask you something like, what is the full form of CAT? Now, if you answer that wrongly, then it is a very, very dangerous thing to do, because you have essentially cracked CAT. You're sitting there for the interview, but it shows your foundations itself are not clear. Like, you don't know what you're doing, right? So it is a computer-based test for admission to graduate management programs. Now, what is different in the computer-based test is that GMAT is a computer adaptive test, right? So if you keep answering the questions correctly, the questions keep getting harder. If you answer the questions wrong, they will get easier. And based on that, your final score will be calculated. Now, CAT is not like that. In CAT, the questions are set from the start. And there, you can toggle between questions very freely. In GMAT, whatever question you get, you cannot skip the question. You cannot go to the next question. You either not answer it, or you put in a wrong answer or a right answer based on whatever you know. And then the computer will give you the next question. So CAT is actually accepted by IIMs in India. In fact, up until a few years ago, it was called IIM CAT before various other institutes like IITs, like, for example, SP Jain and others started accepting it. By a few universities abroad as well, mostly in Europe, mostly in France, as I will discuss in the slide itself. Now, one thing worth noting here is that people with a 2, 3, and 4-year degree, that is a bachelor's degree. So BTech is a 4-year bachelor's degree, BBA is a 3 years degree, multiple BA courses are 2-year bachelor's degrees. You can appear for CAT, but you need a minimum 3-year degree to be eligible for an entry into an IIM. Now, this rule applies only to IIMs. Non-IIMs, they have their own specific rules. But for IIMs, you need at least a 3-year degree to enter their MBA program. Now, there is no age and there are no number of limits to which you can give CAT. However, as we will discuss the various assessment criterion later, your age is a direct proxy of your work experience. At least that is what is expected, right? And based on your work experience, there is a criteria wherein you are scored. So if you have work experience between 0 to 1 years, you get a certain score. Between 1 to 2, you get a certain score. And above 3 years, it starts declining. So 1 to 3, your graph increases. 3 to 5, it starts falling. Beyond 5, you get no points for work ex. Now, this criteria, it changes from IIM to IIM, and it changes from year to year, right? So for some years, they might actually give a lot of weightage to work ex, while for some years, they may not give much weightage to work ex. And usually you will find that most top institutes of India, like even IIMs for that matter, the average work ex, like for the senior batch at IIM Sambalpur that just passed out, the average work ex was 24 months. So getting work ex is always a good option before attempting CAT or wanting to do an MBA. Although if you are a fresher also, there is no holding back from attempting CAT and going for an MBA. But just remember, there will be a scoring disadvantage that you will face as compared to candidates with work experience. So IIMs offer you a normal MBA, which is the flagship program at most IIMs. They offer you an MBA Business Analytics, which has picked up very, very fast, especially at IIM Bangalore, which is among the pioneers of MBA in Business Analytics. They offer MBA Family Business and Entrepreneurship, MBA in Analytics, which is most recently being offered by IIM Kashipur. Their MBA in Analytics course has actually outperformed their MBA full-time in some aspects. And then they have MBA in Food Administration, Food and Agricultural Business Management. So MBA FABM is offered by IIM Ahmedabad, by IIM Lucknow, and by many other top institutes of the country. So you will also come to see that a lot of, like I mentioned, a lot of universities in Paris, in France, in Europe will be accepting your CAT scores. ESSEC Business School is one of them. HEC Paris is one of them. And the Norwegian School of Economics at Bergen, in NSE Bergen, that I've mentioned here, is one of them. Now, these institutes, they are not necessarily the best institutes of Europe, but they accept CAT scores mostly for MIM. That is a Master's in Management degree, which does not require any work experience. It's a 1-year degree and is considered sort of like a 1-year MBA proxy for MBA, right? So if you see QS, Quacquarelli-Simons, that is a world famous ranker for MBA and for other universities as well. So they rank IIMs in the MIM category and not the FT MBA, full-time MBA category. Right. So with this, we go on to the syllabus straight away. As I've mentioned here, there are 3 sections in CAT: quantitative ability, data interpretation, and verbal ability. So jumping right into the syllabus of quantitative ability, I'd say if you are well versed with maths of up to 10th grade, right? So a lot of you might be knowing there is this very famous book in 10th grade called R.D. Sharma. So if you have level 2 of R.D. Sharma clear, then you are more or less prepared for CAT. Right. So CAT does not include very, very difficult maths from 11th and 12th. It has, most of it is from up to 10th. And if you can do that well, then there is a good chance you will get a very good percentile in CAT. Right. So there are a few tips that I would like to give you from my experience. First one, practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. Right. So what does that mean? That means that you need to not just focus on answering a lot of questions, focus on answering the questions correctly, right? While you are practicing. So in practice, try to solve as many questions as you can and then become more accurate with time. So let us say in the quantitative ability section, there are 24 questions, right? Start with answering all 24. Out of 24, get 10 correct, then get 12 correct, then get 16 correct, 18 correct. Try to get as many correct as you want. Because on test day, your performance will not be 100% of what it was in practice, right? So try to become perfect in practice. Now on test day, because there is something called negative marking, try to focus on getting maximum questions right. It's not necessary that you answer 24 out of 24. If there is a certain element of doubt that the answer might be, let us say, instead of 200, it's 150 or 159 or maybe 160, leave that question. There is no point answering the question incorrectly and getting negative marks, right? Which brings me to my next point, that there are 2 kinds of questions in quantitative ability. One is the objective question, wherein you have MCQs, and one is the TITA, that is typing in the answer, right? So typing in the answer usually does not have negative marking. and they give a range. Like for example, in even in the IIT Madras BS program, they give a range of 158.1 to 158.9, considering some people might have taken 2 decimal places, some might have taken 4 decimal places, some might have done a little less approximation. So all answers within that range are considered correct, right? That applies here too. So try getting as many questions right as you can and answer every single question that does not have negative marks, right? The worst that can happen is you get a 0. Even if you leave that question, you get a 0. Even if you answer it incorrectly, you get a 0, right? Try answering as many as you can. Now, the best way to prepare for this is IPMAT books. Now, a lot of you might be familiar with IPMAT, but for those who are not, it is Integrated Program in Management Aptitude Test, right? So a lot of IIMs and a lot of other institutes all over India offer the Integrated Program in Management. It's like a management course you can enter straight after 12th. It's a 5-year course, and at the end of it, you're awarded an MBA degree. If you leave after 3 years, you're awarded a BBA degree, right? So IIM Indore offers that course. IIM Jammu offers it. IIM Ranchi offers it. IIM Bodh Gaya also offers that course. It's a 5-year degree, 5-year course. But the books, the syllabus is more or less similar to CAT, right? So you can use IPMAT books. In fact, I use them pretty extensively for my CAT prep, and they will help you starting out with your preparation. They'll help you in starting out with your preparation. So if you are like, if you're just starting your CAT preparation, if you don't know where to begin, I would suggest you pick up an IPMAT book, start solving the questions, start testing yourself there, see how much you know, and then move on to the CAT books, right? If you want to do something additionally, that is, you want to go the extra mile, become absolutely perfect, right? So if you want to test yourself, if you are like 100% about it, go and start attempting GRE prep books. GMAT, I would not recommend so much because the quant in GMAT is much easier as compared to CAT, right? Higher level GMAT, yes, something like Kaplan, something like Manhattan Prep, you can take that up. You can probably solve the questions from there. But GRE quant is very difficult, right? And I would recommend that you start off with GRE quant if you really want to prep seriously for CAT. The next section is data interpretation and logical reasoning, right? So this usually includes questions like A is the father of B and C is not the mother of B, but C is related to A. D is the father of both A and C. So what is C? C is the sister of A, right? C is the sister or C is the brother of A, sibling, right? So questions like these come here. Questions like 5 people are seated in a circle. Person A is not seated next to person C, but is seated next to person B. Right. So here you will usually get question sets of 4 questions each, 5 sets or 5 questions each, 4 sets. That varies year on year depending on which IIM is setting the question paper. And subjective questions here are fairly uncommon. That is the TITA questions, type in the answer questions, are fairly uncommon. Moving on, here I would suggest maximize the number of questions you attempt, right? And look for the one super easy set. So while the year I was attempting CAT, there was this set of questions wherein they had a bunch of bar charts and you could literally point a finger on the screen, count physically and answer those questions. They were that simple. Now, when I got out of there and I talked to my fellow test takers, they said, we never came across those questions. I said, but similar test set, that was set 2, similar slot, that was 12 to 2 in the afternoon, similar question set. Just the thing was that for me, what was question 1 to 4 was question 16 to 20 for them, was question 12 to 16 for them. They didn't even reach that super easy set by the time the sectional timer elapsed and they were automatically moved into the next section. So one tip I would like to give parallelly is start by reviewing all the questions. You don't necessarily need to read them, but look for that one super easy set. Because if you get those 4 questions right, then you are ahead of a lot of people who didn't even reach those questions, or didn't answer them, or got them wrong due to some reason, right? So you are automatically ahead of a lot of people on test A if you just look for that one super easy set, right? Now, next tip is don't answer a single question in the set till you're 100% sure of the arrangement, right? So what do I mean by arrangement? The arrangement is the order in which 5 people are sitting around in a circle, right, around a table on chairs, or the order is the order in which the family is described in the data set. Like for example, the A, B, and C, mother and sister example, and the father of and the brother of the son of example I gave you. So family trees are very common in this section, and you should be 100% sure of the arrangement, because even if you get one thing in the arrangement wrong, It's basically like building a house of cards. Even if one card is out of place, the entire thing collapses, right? So how do you be sure you are right? Once you have made the arrangement, reading all the facts, A is the mother of B. So at the top comes D, draw a line pointing downward, draw A. C is the father of A, okay. And D is the mother of C, but not the, let us say, brother of E, right? So after that, what you need to do is you need to be 100% sure of this, tally every single fact that is present in the given data set with your arrangement. Even if you find there can be something slightly different, or if there is an inaccuracy of information, then before answering the question, consider both arrangements that you have made, right? So what you essentially have to do here is verify that your arrangement is matching every single fact stated and review this multiple times, right? The best way to become perfect at this is to do the previous year papers. The only change that will come in is that instead of 10 people in the family tree, we might have 12 or we might have 8. Instead of 5 people sitting in a circle, we might have 7, we might have 9, we might have 10. But if you want to be 100% sure of what you're doing, solve previous year papers, right? This is a sequence of solving the questions that I would like to recommend that starts with read all facts twice, develop your arrangement, verify it with all the facts, and see if it answers all the questions. So if you're, let us say, if your answer is coming that F is the son of X, right? But there is the question says that who is the son of X and F is not an option. So go back to basics, right? Uncheck all the answers that you have done so far. Go back to basics, review your entire arrangement, and then answer that question, right? It is not possible in these questions that they will give you an option that does not exist, right? So keep reworking the arrangement and you'll see, unless you can find what is perfect. It might so happen that it is not there in the answer set, but 3 out of the 4 questions are falling in perfectly. So you made a tree, right? That tree is able to answer 3 of the 4 questions with 100% surety. The 4th question, you're not able to find the option. Now, in this case, it's more of a case-to-case based situation. Then you will have to use your own surety, your own confidence levels to determine if what you've done for the remaining 3 questions is right. But in my opinion, that is not worth the risk if you're risking it for negative marking. So again, that is something very dangerous, right? Next, we come to verbal ability and reading comprehension, which is personally my favorite section, partly because I got 99.2 percentile there. And that was actually the section where I performed best. So here you will mostly have things like jumbled paragraph, things like summary questions, things like a reading comprehension passage. And here the type in the answer has negative marking, right? So how does it have negative marking? So I'll give you, let us say 5 sentences. And I will say type in the correct order of these sentences. Now it can be 3, 2, 4, 5, 1. It can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can be 5, 1, 3, 4, 2. Right? So you're supposed to type in the correct order. But if you type in the wrong order, instead of 5, 1, 4, 3, 2, if you type in 5, 1, 4, 2, 3, you will lose marks. Right? So unless you are 100% sure of what you are doing, do not answer these questions. Right? So what would I recommend for doing well in the VARC section? Number 1, start reading books. All right. And by books, I don't mean start reading fiction. Fiction will not help you develop the thinking pattern you need for this section. Read non-fiction. Read books about, let us say, about sociology. Read books about psychology, about politics, about economics, about medieval history, about anything that is actually non-fiction and has something to do with economics, politics, history, geography, anything that can, help you comprehend based on facts and logical inferences. All right. And this is another tip that I would like to give you. There is a very thin line between an assumption and between a logical inference. So if I say that, like, for example, if there is a passage that says Deloitte uses personal interviews to recruit candidates based on their profile. Candidates who do well in the interview are commonly considered to be good fits for the company. Right? Deloitte, I'm taking just as an example. You can take any other company. So here the logical inference would be that personal interviews are good in determining a right fit for the company, for Deloitte, right? But an assumption would be that personal interviews are a good objective assessment of the candidate's capability. So as an assumption here is actually playing a very dangerous game, is that you're making a gross generalization that personal interviews are applicable to every company, which is actually very dangerous, right? So learn the difference between drawing a logical inference and making an assumption, right? And at this time, you should actually read the paragraph and ask yourself that these are the facts, these are things I can infer. Which of these is an assumption? Is there something in the stated paragraph or in the reading comprehension that I can back it up with? If there is, then that is probably a logical inference, right? So reading books will actually help you develop a knack for understanding. It will improve your reading speed, which is very important in CAT, because when you have 4 passages, you need to read all of them before the sectional timer elapses. And there will be a lot of people who will just skim through the passage, find out the correct things and enter them, right? And you need to beat all those people by being able to find what is relevant and by improving your reading speed really well. Right. At the end of the day, let's face it, your preparation needs to be better than everyone else's preparation because it's a competitive exam, right? So next thing it will help you is it will help you develop comprehension skills. That what is the paragraph actually trying to say? Is it telling me, like, for example, there is a passage about Indian history that India gained independence after a long violent struggle, let us say, or a long arduous struggle. So is that trying to tell me that India's struggle was violent? If it says arduous, it might not necessarily mean violent, right? Or India's struggle was, India's independence struggle was very difficult and it was laden with a lot of, let us say, obstacles in the way. So that is a more logical inference. Arduous, the word arduous coincides more with there being a lot of obstacles, there being a lot of difficulties, than it coincides with it necessarily being violent, right? Next recommendation that I would like to give you all is start reading newspapers. Right now, this is actually hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. If you read newspapers, as we will discuss later, it will help you in preparing for your personal interviews as well. All right. So in the newspaper, if you want to specifically prepare for the VARC section, read something called the editorial. Right. So every newspaper has a page, a section that is called the editorial section, wherein reputed writers or reputed personnel from all over the country or all over the world sometimes, they write their views based on global happenings and things like that. So start reading the editorial section. The Business Standard and the Economic Times are 2 very popular newspapers and 2 very good newspapers for VARC preparation in CAT. And just start writing essays generally, right? So start writing essays and summaries of books you've read, of articles you've read, essays about certain ideas. So challenge yourself each day, right? I am giving myself a topic today that should India support, let us say, so should India support the secession of Luhansk and Donetsk from Ukraine, right? So you must have heard that up until last year, the Russians had declared the Republic of Luhansk and the Republic of Donetsk as 2 separate countries. So should India diplomatically acknowledge these countries? So you can explore that, you can write about it, you can express your views in the form of an essay. Next thing I would say, read classical literature, right? That is something very important. You will develop thinking skills and comprehension beyond what is explicitly mentioned. It's a good way to do that. And finally, I would say for VARC, your language skills are more important than your preparation. So if you invest in year and a half before your CAT attempt, reading books, reading newspapers, reading articles, reading things like the MIT Sloan Management Review, the Harvard Management Review, the IIM Ahmedabad case books, the Wharton case books, IIM Bangalore case books, these things, they will help you develop your reading comprehension skills. And the advantage with case books is that they're also recommended for case-based interviews. So let's say you make it to one of the top B schools of India, which I sincerely hope you all do. And there you are, let us say, sitting for a management consulting company. So there it would be very important for you to have skills in the domain of let us say, solving a case, right? So that will help you there as well. For VARC, I'd recommend start developing your language skills. You will automatically be prepared enough, right? Next, let's come to the analytical writing test, right? This is also commonly called the written ability test in most other institutes. For this, I'd like to give you a few tips. So remember that it's good to be opinionated, but not too much, right? So you can support any side of the bipolar or tripolar or any side of the argument which has, let us say, multiple different views, as long as you can justify it. Right, and as long as you do not use radical statements or statements that make you come across as someone who is very, very strongly opinionated, or someone who is thinking very, very personally, who's taking that very personally. So you do not need to express it, even though you might take certain things very closely, like you might have a very strong association to things like LGBTQIA plus rights, or things like nationalism, or things like religious beliefs. You do not need to make them very evident. You do not need to make the emotional angle of it very evident. You need to talk rationally, and you need to justify everything you say. You need to justify all your opinions. And finally, understand the point of this test to assess your clarity of thought and expression skills. Right. So it is one thing saying that India should not legalize same-sex marriages. And it is one thing saying that India should carefully consider its decision if it is to legalize same-sex marriages in the near future. In both cases, the point I'm making is the same, right? But in the second case, I am coming across as someone who is well-versed, who is well-researched, and who is being very diplomatic about it, which is essentially what a manager needs to do a lot of times, right? So you cannot always be blunt. You cannot say, I don't think India should support Russia in its invasion of Ukraine. You need to say India should very carefully evaluate its standing in the world politics when it comes to supporting either side in the Russia-Ukraine war. Like, that's just a way of putting it. So a good tip for this is open with a quote, open with a question, or open with a popular statement, right? So I remember that we were having this this passage in the IMI Delhi analytical writing test during my MBA preparation phase. We were asked to write an analytical writing test for admission to IMI Delhi. It was a part of their assessment process. And the question I got was, will AI lead to job losses? So I quoted a very famous saying, I think it was by Winston Churchill, that said that the industrial revolution is upon us, and something like it was regarding how an industrial revolution essentially changes the nature of jobs. It wasn't Churchill, it was probably an economist. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that that's always a good opener, right? And as long as you can justify anything with facts. So what I did in the AI lead to job losses thing is I said that AI may not necessarily lead to job losses. As has been the trend over the past 3 industrial revolutions, jobs have not been lost, but the nature of jobs has changed, because the population of the world has expanded significantly since the first industrial revolution, and so has the employment. So this shows us that while the industries continue to evolve, the industrial revolutions continue to come, the nature of jobs is what changes. Jobs don't necessarily die out with an industrial revolution, as is happening today. So AI, cloud, and IoT are called the 3 pillars of the 4th industrial revolution. Right. So AI may not necessarily lead to a job loss. It might lead to a change in the nature of jobs. Right. So this is something that I used to factually back up my statement. Another interesting topic I got during my IPMAT preparation, or during my IPMAT assessment, was smart work or hard work. What do you prefer? So there, the most politically correct argument would also obviously be I prefer smart work. But one of my co-test takers that I happened to speak to after the assessment process had actually mentioned hard work, because he said in some cases, in cases like research, you need to spend more time with the problem. And he quoted Albert Einstein saying that I am not more intelligent than people. I just happen to spend a lot more time with problems. So spending a lot more time with problems is essentially hard work, and therefore hard work is more important if you want to find solutions. Again, that's a great argument, right? So there is no correct argument here. There is no wrong argument here. It's only about what you can justify. Right, coming to the personal interview. So this is the clincher, actually, because a lot of institutes, even IIMs, give a lot of weightage to your personal interview, right? Because that gives them a chance to evaluate your profile. So most interviews start off with, tell me about yourself, or tell us something about yourself. Tell me what makes you interesting, right? So this is when the ball is in your court. Okay, tell them something that makes you stand out. So what I told them is I was a phase 2 volunteer for Covaxin during the human trials of Covaxin in India while the vaccines were in development. So based on this, they asked me multiple questions related to this and related to me being a nationally ranked tennis player. they created a confluence of both by asking me that one side there is you volunteering for the vaccine, and one side there is Novak Djokovic, a very famous tennis player who was at the time debarred from Australian Open because of him not taking the vaccine. So what is your stand on what Djokovic has said? So now they might give you controversial questions like these to test your expression of thought and understand your clarity of thought, right? But the point here is that if you tell them something unique about you, if you tell them something that you know very well, then when they ask you questions, you can answer them very originally. And your originality, your authenticity, the genuinity of your personality reflects in the way that you answer these questions, right? So there is a globe, there is something that is called gas and globe at MBA institutes, right? So gas is globally acceptable shit, right? Excuse me for using the word, but it is something that people commonly say for when you talk about very, very generalistic things, when you just want to be politically correct, and when you talk about things from a perspective of just, wanting to get done with it. And an interviewer can make out when you're doing that. So talk about something with the utmost genuinity. Come up with something unique in each answer. Next point I'd like to come to is current affairs are a must. So despite most of my interview being personality based, at the end, they asked me, what is the latest update on the Russia-Ukraine war? And at the time, Russia had actually occupied Mariupol and had actually just recently the Azov battalion had been formed in Ukraine. So I told them that. And they were quite happy with my knowledge with current affairs, right? So next comes, there is a way to say I don't know, right? Just don't go out in the interview, and if they ask you a question and you don't know the answer, don't tell them I don't know, sir, I didn't prepare, right? That's a very, very unprofessional way of dealing with things. Even if you want to say I don't know, tell them that sir, that's actually a very interesting topic, I would want to learn more about it, or I don't happen to recollect the exact details for the same. It would be great if you could discuss what this is about, or if you could tell me something about this, right? So these are two ways to say I don't know. Essentially what you're saying is I don't know, but you need to put it across in such a way that you don't look insincere, you don't look unprofessional, right? So the next point I'd like to come to is don't be rude or aggressive, but don't be meek either, right? There are certain places the interviewer might try to poke you. They might take a stress interview also. Like they might say, what do you want to join an IIM for? Or do you really think you're good enough to join an IIM? Or what exactly is it that you want to do? They might talk to you very rudely. They might talk to you very harshly. I mean, what might seem rude to you, they might be very, very stone-faced with you. At this time, it is important to maintain your composure, not get rude, not get aggressive. If they ask you opinionated questions, share your opinion. As you did in the analytical writing test, share it very diplomatically. And there is no need to be meek either. Don't think that if I share my opinion, people are going to judge me, or maybe I'm going to get disqualified, or maybe they might not appreciate it. Opinions are always welcome, right? So that is one thing that the culture at IIMs also teaches you, that opinions are always welcome. There is no need to be very meek about it, right? So if I believe that, let us say, at the time I was preparing for one of my interviews, the Citizenship Amendment Act, which was then the Citizenship Amendment Bill, was actually tabled in the parliament, and there was a lot of controversy and a lot of riots happening all over India at that time. So in one of my preparatory sessions, they asked me that, what is your stance on the Citizenship Amendment Bill, or don't you think it's unconstitutional? So I put it across very promptly, very diplomatically, that sir, based on these sections, and based on the definition of secularism as given by Voltaire, the Citizenship Amendment Bill is perfectly constitutional, right? And then I mentioned why. So because I backed it up with facts, because I said it very diplomatically, my stance was well received, right? So you might be having a very different stance, a very out of the box thinking. Don't be afraid to share it, but share it in a way that doesn't make you sound opinionated or doesn't make you sound like a radical, right? So are there any questions so far? If any of you can just unmute and speak up. So thank you all.
Parth,
Yes.
I think someone was asking about the books. You could recommend the books for them in the chat. that.
Recommend the books as in recommend for preparation or recommend for
Yeah.
verbal ability?
I think it was preparation.
Is the question in the chat box? I can just review it once.
Yeah, it's in the chat box. And someone also asked if it's still a viable strategy for CAT 23, like this year's CAT.
Yeah, I'll just review the questions from the chat box here. Repeat the book name, please type if possible. Soham, which book's name are you asking? Is it the VARC book or is it books for the preparation for like the different sections? Okay, so for VARC, I'd recommend start reading books about start reading books about your like let us say about politics that is happening. So one very good book I had read at the time was Savarkar by Vikram Sampath, right? So Veer Savarkar was always a very controversial figure in Indian history and Indian politics. The author Vikram Sampath, he actually happened to write an entire book on it. Plus, during my 10th grade, there was an assignment where we had to write a research paper based on the novel The Kite Runner. So there were two topics given to us. One was relations and one was politics and warfare. So for that, I did a cross-comparative study with Afghanistan under Taliban and Germany under the Nazis. So from there, I was able to develop a lot of my comprehension skills. Right. There are other good non-fiction books that you can also look up. Try to read something in Indian history. GSI Deepak is an excellent author. You can read a few of his books. This strategy is for CAT 2023. Prakhar. Prakhar, these strategies are for CAT in general, right? So if I talk about your quantitative ability, your data interpretation and logical reasoning. So first thing you need to understand is CAT is a test of time. All right, it's not a test of how much you know. You will never be able to solve all the questions with absolute perfection, right? So there are certain questions which are very long, wherein you have to calculate, let us say, NCR, P to the power R, Q to the power N minus R, binomial trials, Bernoulli trials. You'll have to implement multiple things. But instead of answering one question like that, you can answer 2-3 simpler questions. So at times you might actually have to do a trade-off. Like you leave that question, answer 2-3 questions correctly. If you have time at the end, come back to that question, do the entire solving on the rough sheet, and then answer it. But solving that one question, let us say if it takes 6 minutes, and you can do 2 more questions in 2 minutes each, 4 minutes. So it would definitely be wiser to go for those 2 easier questions because the marking for each is the same, right? +3 -1. So it is definitely better to go for those questions. So my suggestion will be this strategy is for CAT in general. Bhumika Dwivedi asked IPMAT book and yeah, okay, yes. Bhumika is also an IPM student at IIM Ranchi, right? So if you want to consult about IPMAT books for her, she's a great person to talk to. You can also take your inputs from her. How to prepare for interview? SKMD Mahasin, right? Mahasin, I'll just go back to that slide of mine. Yeah. So for personal interview, first thing, start reading up on current affairs, right? Start reading the newspaper. Have knowledge of whatever is happening. If there is a major global event happening, like an incoming recession, or let us say the Russia-Ukraine war, or something that is like shaking up the world, you should definitely know about that, right? If you have an interest in something, let us say you are a very passionate musician or a passionate sportsman, you should be aware of what is happening in the sports world or the world of music or whatever it is you're very, very interested in, right? Second thing, for tell me about yourself, have it ready. List the most important points about your profile, have it ready, be prepared with it. The moment they say, tell me about yourself, you should be ready, you should start. Right? Tell me about yourself is probably the only question in an interview you can prepare for. So be prepared for it. Right? And make sure that whatever you talk about in tell me about yourself is not longer than 1 to 1.5 minutes, else they're going to shut you down. They're going to say, okay, fine. Let's start the interview. Right? So don't talk too much about yourself, but give them the interesting part. All right. And for the interview, generally, I'd say knowledge is always a plus. And generally anyone who is good with current affairs, anyone who has a good opinion, a good way to put it forward, is well prepared for the interview. How many hours of preparation do I need to save? Currently, I'm working. So, Arjun, how many hours of preparation do you need to do? Commonly, they recommend 300 hours of preparation for CAT. But based on, let us say, you're doing the IIT Madras course also, which is very quant intensive. So I would suggest that start doing a lot of mock papers, start doing a lot of previous year papers, test yourself with that. Based on that, you yourself can assess where are you in each section, right? So if you start reading books, if you start reading newspapers, if you start reading articles on the internet about, let us say, psychological theories, sociological theories, politics, history, Indian history, zoology, even for that matter, and botany, things like that, they're very common topics for CAT, then you don't need to do a lot of additional preparation for CAT. So you can do that. You can assess with a mock paper or with a previous year paper, solve it yourself, score yourself. Why I would recommend an online mock paper is because there you'll have a timer. There the section will change automatically, right? And there whatever the test will be, it will be marked objectively by a computer. So I'd suggest give a mock test online, see what your percentile is, what you're targeting. Based on that, decide your preparation hours, right? There's no hard and fast rule. Can you tell us about your profile? Sure, Prakhar, about my profile. I'll just mention the key parameters that I took in my interview and while I was entering IIM. I think that would help you more. So for my undergrad, I had an 8.7 GPA. I did my BBA from Institute of Management, Nirma University. My GPA was 8.7, and I had a 75% scholarship because my entrance merit rank in that institute was number 3. Right, so I was a merit scholarship holder. Next thing, I was a nationally ranked tennis player as well in the boys under 18 category by All India Tennis Association. I was a yellow belt in Taekwondo at the time I was entering my MBA. At the time, I had also worked on the implementation of the national education policy at my institute. I was a part of the student body that was representing our institute in the National Assessment and Accreditation Council, the NAC, to the NAC committee. Other than that, I had been a Hult Prize campus winner. So the Hult Prize is a social entrepreneurship challenge. It is a global challenge, and it is hosted by the Bill Clinton Foundation and the Hult Business School. 1 year I had won it. I had gotten an invite from Australia. The second year I was the finalist. I had won multiple other case competitions, entrepreneurship competitions, many other things. So that's my profile. For the other things, I had interned at Samco Securities. Prakhar, you can contact me personally. I can tell you what my profile was back then, or you guys can reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's always welcome. So Arya Sinha asks, can anyone with degree in arts?
Parth, sorry for interrupting me. So you're free to answer as many questions as you want. Guys, we'll also be sharing a WhatsApp group, so you guys can ask your questions over there. Since Parth is a batchmate, we can reach out to him there. So you can answer as many as you want because there are quite a few, but the rest we can move to the WhatsApp group later on.
Sure. Also, a batchmate of mine will be joining shortly. So I'll actually just share the link with him. And so for anything that you want to ask us about our experience at IIM or anything, you can just ask us. Just give me a second. Right. Devashish, am I audible?
Yes, Parth. Hi.
Yeah, hi. Good evening. So, guys, this is Devashish Malkani. He's a very good friend of mine and my batchmate. And he has 1 year of work experience in core management consulting. And other than that, he is the president of the CSR club of IIM Sambalpur. and academically he is one of our best performers. So anything about the IIM experience that you want to know, or anything about the institute that we could answer about IIMs in general, he'll be answering it with me. So welcome, Devashish. It's glad you
Thanks.
make time for us today. Yeah.
There was no need to paint such a big narrative for me, but yes, you guys can go ahead.
Yeah. No. I mean, he's someone you should really ask questions to. He can make the most of it. You can reach out to him. He'll always be happy to help. So Arya Sinha here has asked that, can anyone with a degree in arts choose MBA? How much it will be difficult for those who are not from BBA background? That is, how difficult will it be? So Devashish, do you want to take this up?
Sure. First and foremost, high five. I am also a BA graduate. It's just that I am a graduate in statistics and economics. So that was pretty much aligned with the management courses. And that was pretty much the reason I was able to do a bit well than my peers. But yes, if you have a good mathematical backing, let's say you are a math student, at least till 10th, it may be a little difficult, but if you have studied mathematics till class 12th, I think it is very much easier. And even if not, there are a lot of batchmates who have outperformed those who are already had a background. So it's not something that you should be afraid of, and that can be easily be taken care of. It's just that you need to work harder. And there are a lot of computer science graduates who can turn out to be better in other electives, but then it always balances out. Somewhere they are better, somewhere you are better. Somebody who's a law student will do better in that elective. So it evens out. A bell curve takes place there as well. So it's not the case. So.
Right, great. So Arya, is your question answered? Anyway, so let's move on to the next one. Safina Khatun asks, what would be the best option after BTech, MTech or MBA? Safina, what do you want to pursue in the long run? What is your career goal? Where do you want to see yourself? Safina, you're not audible. All right. Safina, we'll take up your question. Just let us know when your mic is working, or we try to answer it in the WhatsApp group, or otherwise, if possible. So Shrishti Tiwari asks, how can we access the slides? Will it be shared with us? Yes, I'll be sharing the slides. Srinivas Chillukudi asks, would too much experience that is greater than 10 be considered negatively during PI? Greater than 10 years, Srinivas?
Yeah.
Yes, greater than 10.
Greater than 10 years. Okay. So see, it depends every year. All right. This year, IIM Ahmedabad, during their grading, they have given full marks to those who have work experience more than 36 months. All right. So you get a full score for that. First thing. Second thing, if you have 10 years of work experience, what I would personally recommend is that you don't join an MBA FT, you join an executive MBA. Right? It's a 1-year MBA option. The placements are much better than the FT MBA. And an executive MBA is more positioned to people with average 8 to 10 years of work experience. Right? In IIM Ahmedabad, I think, or IIM Bangalore, the selection for exec MBA is done through GMAT. I can definitely look up on this and get back to you. But my personal recommendation would be, if you have 10 years of work, go for an exec MBA. It's the best option. Right. The next question is by Sai Charan Ritvik Chinni. I am a dual degree student from BITS Pilani. We are given an aggregate CGPA, not individual, for BE and MSc. What should I enter in my CGPA for bachelor's and master's in the CAT application form? The same which is given on the mark sheet. So Devashish, I think you too have done a master's, so you can take this up.
Yeah, so I also have a master's degree in economics, but fortunately I had a separate grading system. Like my BA score was allotted to me on a different mark sheet, and the MA score was given on a different mark sheet. So I never really faced this kind of a problem, and I think this is a bit too technical for either of us to answer. I think he should write to the CAT helpline because I have never seen such a scenario before. So honestly, I wouldn't be able to help you out with this. I think it's best to write to the CAT helpline. If at all you don't have access to the CAT helpline, I would be happy to help you with that. But this this scenario, I've never really seen arise in front of me. Also, I think you can contact your college as well for once, because generally it is wise to have your separate grading for BA and MA separately, because on many instances you will be asked to enter your graduation score. So you can get stuck there. And instead of having to write up email to each and every agency for whatever purpose you go ahead, it's wiser to get it corrected from the source and ask the college to steer your way around this first. And then you should definitely write a mail to the helpline of CAT. I think that would be better.
Yeah, that I think would be the most recommended course of action.
Yes.
Okay, Prakhar Tandon asks, what profile you think should be aiming? What do you think one's profile should be if aiming for IIM Ahmedabad? Okay, very, very nice question. I mean, every CAT aspirant thinks only of IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, right? So
very true.
Right. So for your profile, Prakhar, a few things I would recommend is, number one, get some WorkX under your belt. All right. So it always adds to the value of your profile, right? MBA abroad, if you see, there is an eligibility criteria of minimum 2 years. WorkX always adds value up until 3 to 4 years, right? For a full-time MBA, WorkX adds value, right? Next, in your profile, you should have something very unique about you, right? So go out, explore, do a lot of internships, do a lot of competitions, competitive events, participate in sports, right? Do something out of the box. So there was this very famous article on MBA.com about GMAT, that how I guitared my way into Kellogg's, right? So there was a guy from IIM Ahmedabad. He had learned how to play the guitar, and based on the guitar, he made his entire resume, and he got selected to Kellogg's for his second MBA, right? So a very interesting sequence of events transpired from where he actually got selected. So about your profile, I'd say, don't make it very bulky. Don't make it something like you're not focused. You're just doing everything just for the sake of doing it. Have a certain direction in your mind. Like, if someone asks you anything about your profile, you should be able to answer it. Like, why you want to do a finance role? Why did you go for a marketing internship? At that time, I was not aware about what finance and marketing are like. So I wanted to explore every domain to see where I fit best. Right?
I would like to just add to what Parth mentioned. Like, each and every college has a different weightage criteria. If you go to their website, you will find a procedure which they use to hire candidates. So therein you will have which weightage is allotted to which parameter. Let's say 10th will have a parameter of a weightage of 5%, 12th will have a weightage of 10%. Likewise, each of these will be drilled down in a detailed report there. And also you will get a range. Let's say you have 90% in your class 12, therefore you will get 10 out of 8. So you can add those weightages and then check on YouTube or some of the guys that have done an RTI on which is the minimum compose aggregate score to get into IIM Ahmedabad. So you can match your, if your score of weightages adds up to those, you can firsthand get an idea, a very technical approach of getting how far are you or how behind are you in your race to your dream college. That is something which is very objective, and you will also get to know what is the minimum percentile you would need to score in CAT to match that score. So it's you will be free on your will to decide which college. You won't have to depend on anyone to answer that question. So if you go to a specific college website, see their report of what are the weightages they attach to each of the parameter to get hired. You would get answers to most of the questions. Like one of them, I just have to glance upon that. Does internship count in WorkX? So if you go to any of those reports, you will have a clear-cut answer that only full-time paid work experience gets counted. So you will get answers to most of the queries there, and you won't be, hunting for correct information.
Right, that's right, Devashish. That's well taken. So the next question is from RD. How much does one's academic and overall background matter in getting accepted at IIMs? If one has very average academic background, and that's all. So see, don't let an average academic background be a deterrent. All right. So every year IIMs launch a different selection criteria. Some years they give a lot of weightage to 10th and 12th. Some years they give no weightage to 10th and 12th. Right. And that depends from IIM to IIM. So the year Devashish and I gave CAT, IIM Indore was notorious for having a very high weightage for 10th and 12th.
Very true.
So Indore was notorious for that. Calcutta, on the other hand, was known for giving little to no weightage to them. The combined weightage of 10th and 12th was, I think, what, 3% or 5%?
Yeah, something in single digits. And I think the year we both appeared, prior to that, when the COVID batch was graduating, the criteria, the weightage to graduation was completely discarded by Ahmedabad. So it's just very dynamic, as Parth is mentioning. So you can target, as I mentioned in my previous answer, if you go to a specific college website, there you will have a detailed analysis of what are the weightages they attach to each parameter. And you can very well, backtrack how much you need to score in CAT to get to that college.
Right. So that's anything if you want to follow up, you can definitely put it up in the WhatsApp group. Next, everyone says reading current affairs. Everyone, so everyone says reading current affairs. Please state the sources from which we can constantly read the required article from Rohit Raghavan. My recommendations would be the Business Standard, 1, the Economic Times, number 2, and the Times of India, number 3. All right, in no specific order. Why I'd say Times of India along with 2 business papers is because general news is equally important with business news. Right, so you need to know about political changes, important political changes, just as well as you need to know about business changes, right? And read the editorial section, right? So that is something Devashish can also highlight. I think he is one who reads the editorial very regularly. Devashish.
Yeah, so I would, as I mentioned earlier, I have a master's degree in economics, but very honestly, I knew nothing about economics before I started reading Business Standard. Half of my knowledge that I gather owes to those columns of Professor Swaminathan Iyer, Shailesh Dobal, A.K. Bhattacharya. Once you listen to such profound views, you tend to develop a whole holistic perspectives on what's happening around you. You get to hear the same problem from different angles and what can be the cascading effects of those. So once your view develops, you tend to stand out in the crowd. And honestly, we all know how difficult. Honestly, I found it very difficult to start reading newspapers. But then to get ahead, I think it's one of the most basic things one can do, and it's one of the hardest as well. But once things fell in momentum and I saw my views evolving, and whenever I used to speak, I saw that I am being listened to. So it just pepped up my motivation to read more. And I think reading any one newspaper is just, it can have a very huge impact on the way you sound, on the way you speak, the logic you drive, the arguments you give. So I would definitely recommend. But then it's easier said than done. So somewhere you have to muster the courage, sit with those for some time till you start liking them.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing to do, right? When you're just starting out. So Samyukta Shriram, I am a student pursuing the BS degree full time. I graduated from 12th last year. Couple of questions. Okay, Samyukta, let's go. How soon should I start preparing for CAT? And apart from aiming to crack the CAT exam, how should I attempt to build up my profile for IIM admissions? Right. So how soon should I start preparing for CAT? Samyukta, there is no timeline per se. So as I told, I think it was Arjun, that it depends on where you are currently. So give a mock exam, find out where you are. Based on that, start preparing. Right. Some people need about 3 to 4 months. Some people need 6 months. Normally, I would recommend 6 months of preparation. That is not too much and that is not too little. So start reading all the books and newspapers that we have talked about right away, because they add more to your personality objectively beyond IIM admissions also. Right. And for Quant and DILR, 6 months of preparation should be enough. Apart from aiming to crack the CAT exam itself, how should I attempt to build up my profile for IIM admissions? Okay, good question. So one thing you should show is diversity in terms of things you've experienced. All right. So when Devashish, I think, was building up his profile, he showed that he was ranked among the top 100 players of India in men's tennis, right? In men's lawn tennis. He showed that he is someone who has done a master's in economics. He has been an educator as well, and he has experience in consulting. So he is covering a very wide array of things. While I was building my profile, I showed I have a vaccine volunteering certificate. I am a professional sportsman. I am also a tennis player. And the fact that I've been to more than 20 countries. So I also have a very wide spectrum covered. So both of us showed a very wide spectrum and then showed that based on that, we have become focused. So this is one general framework that I'd like to recommend of sorts, that show that you have experienced everything and then have become focused. Yes, Devashish.
And I would just want to add something, like we all know how to portray ourselves, but sometimes even one of the most simple things can help the person attract attention. Let's say you're from a place which nobody has ever heard of. Let's say there's a place in Barabanki which people generally don't know. Even if you say I am from Barabanki, it will certainly steer away the attention. So look around you, what is interesting about you which is less known. It is not always that you have to be a big guy to stand out. Sometimes even one of the most simplest things around you can help you. So you can sometimes think upon those lines as well.
That's obviously a very good answer. And the thing I would say is garner up experience, not just with work, but with a lot of other things.
Yes. So I would like to share one of my friends who was from the town Barabanki, and his interview went solely in that direction. He knew that once he brings up that he's from Barabanki, people would start asking questions, where is it? What is it famous about? And like a UPSC aspirant, he had mugged up his city inside out with everything. And they thought that, this is also an interesting place. I might like to travel. So sometimes even one of the most simplest things can be an anchor that you can leverage.
Absolutely right. Samyukta's second question is, given that, okay, Samyukta, we'll take up your second question in the WhatsApp group. A lot of other people have questions too. Shrishti Tiwari asks, how do you manage your time with both the degrees, as both the degrees are intense and vast? Okay, great question, actually. So Devashish and I both sleep about 2 to 3 hours a day, right? Sometimes if we have the luxury, we take it up to 5 to 6 hours a day. Other than that, I'll say be productive with your time, right? So try to make the most out of whatever time you're studying. You don't necessarily have to study 14 to 16 hours a day. Study 4 to 5 hours, but make sure that while you are studying, you are absolutely focused on what you're doing. And once you're at an IIM, the faculty guarantees that 80% of your studying is done in the classroom. Right. So when you have faculties like Devashish, I think would concur with me here. When you have faculties like Shikha Bharadwaj, when you have faculties like Ashutosh Tripathi, they get 80% of your studies done in the classroom. Keep making notes, pay attention, and reserve the rest of your time to doing your BS degree from IITM. That is what I would say. Right. How are you able to manage MBA and BS at the same time? I just answered that. When to do MBA while doing this BSc degree? Okay, so I think your MBA has to align more with your life and your career goals than just with this BSc degree. And it has more to do with what you already know you're doing in the BS. So I'll recommend the foundation is the best time to do it. Because for the IITM BS degree, the foundation is the easiest period in terms of course curriculum, in terms of workload. Or you're mostly giving exams and moving forward in the course. So I would recommend do it during your foundation, right? Take 2 to 3 courses per term, finish off your foundation in an year to a year and a half. By that time, you'll be into your 5th and 6th term at your MBA. You'll most likely be placed. The 6th term anyways is just 12 credits. So you'll have it easy then. That is when you can pick up on IITM. That is when you can take up your diploma, right? So you need to manage your workload in, let us say, a 70-30 ratio. 70% time I give to my MBA, 30% to my IITM degree. And in that 30% time, I don't have to take so many courses that I perform poorly, right? So give everything its due weightage. Both are equally important. Please put your LinkedIn profile. I'll just do that. Devashish will also put his LinkedIn profile. You can reach out to either of us. Sure. How would you connect to us on WhatsApp? Ridhima, I think Advait has shared the group link. LinkedIn profile. What to choose IIMs in India or Europe in university rankings under 100 QS? So I think SK, what you're asking is, should we choose IIMs in India or should we choose universities in Europe? So again, that aligns more with your career goals. So if you want to stay in India, then I think there is no bigger names. There is no bigger name than IIM. There is no bigger name than ISB. There is no bigger name than let us say MDI. So among the top institutes, IFT, another one. So among the top institutes, if you want to stay in India, you'll be better off choosing one of those rather than a university in Europe. If you want to migrate, let us say if you want to settle in Europe, if you want to settle in the United States, so again, those options are always open to you. Next is Ridhima. I am researching about master's programs abroad. I am a statistics honors graduate. I am confused about masters in strategic management or just management and business analytics. To become a management consultant, which would be better? Devashish, your inputs, since you have
Yeah, so first and foremost, you have an amazing degree. And these days, I'll tell you that whenever you say that you have some statistical background, people always, you will always grab eyeballs. And I would say to become a management consultant, a simple MBA program is enough. But then, yes, if you have, very big aspirations, then you should, if your profile meets those targets, why not target Wharton and other schools? I don't know what is your profile, but if you are very aspirational, why don't you begin targeting those? And but to just answer your question, if you want to become a successful management consultant, I think simply cracking CAT after this is way more enough. As far as the present industry is concerned, I know a lot of even IIM Sambalpur alumni who are doing extremely well as management consultants. And once you are there in the industry, after your first 6 months, it doesn't matter from which college you are. I'm being very blunt about it. It's just that how good and how accurate are your solutions to clients? How do you streamline their workflow? How do you connect with them? How do you manage your interpersonal relationships with them? I think it is a lot about that. And I would say if you want to become a successful management consultant, you can simply crack CAT and get into big IIMs and just go for it. Sometimes I always believe in simplicity, so maybe my views may not resound with everyone, but I feel sometimes simple approaches are the best things to do. Yeah,
very, very well said, Devashish. Second, let's come to Priyanshu's questions. Why do IIMs have stricter policies for GEMS, that is general engineering males? Very controversial question, Priyanshu. It has been the subject of a lot of debate over a long period of times, but let's just, as students, we cannot comment on that. So let's leave that out. Also, since I am a GEM and my class 12th academics is not up to the mark, what should I do to make it to ABC? Okay, so since you're a general engineering male and class 12th academics, so number one, garner experience, right? 2 to 3 years, get a very, very good percentile in CAT. ABC will not call you below 99 percentile, right? If you're a GEM, if you have WorkX, 99 percentile, very, very good interview, very, very good analytical writing test, you'll make it to ABC, right? You need to work hard on your profile. You need to work hard on your CAT score. Your interview will be a spillover from your profile, which will be equally good if you manage to work on your profile. So I'd recommend that. Do internships count in WorkX? No, they don't. All right. Sharmadeep's question, I'm doing CA and we do 2 years of articleships and firms. Would that be considered at WorkX for CAT? I think that would be, right, Devashish? That counts as well.
Yes, and also you get brownie points for being a CFA. So you're falling in the right place. Yeah.
Definitely. I think most of the investment banking roles and PEVC roles which come as day zero in IIM Ahmedabad and Calcutta are mostly taken up by CAs and CFAs only, because their acumen in finance is like very, very good.
And most of the IIMs will have a 5% weightage straight away if you are a CA or a CFA, which others get to be 0. So yes.
What is the chance of, Dr. Rennie K. Cherian's question, what is the chance of clearing CAT by an NIFT pass out? 100% if you do well. 100%. Yes. Don't let the fact that you're a non-quant person deter you from attempting CAT or doing well at CAT. Both Devashish and I are non-quant people.
Yes. And one thing I would want to highlight that, whenever there is a case study discussion in the class, let's say if the case revolves around fashion industry, who do you think will have a better view? A girl like you or an engineer like some other person? Of course you. So a lot of interviews who select candidates keep these things in criteria to have a diverse view on a case. You need people from different industry. Let's say a case revolves around a diabetic machine which is going to test your blood sugar levels. So a medical student would be better able to give their perspective on this. So to allay all your fears about this, this diversity is given a very high importance. It's upheld on the platter. So you all have a very good chance. And the reason which, if I refer to one of the previous questions, is just that if you have a majority of, let's say, just an engineer in anything, your view to see things from different perspectives gets cut out. So I think this is probably the reason that people go so harsh on those general engineer males. And all of the other backgrounds, you do have some advantage. Let me not You shouldn't be under this fear. So once you crack the minimum CAT percentile, your interview is definitely much better. They are very light on other streams because they want them in their colleges.
Right. That's absolutely accurate, Devashish. And moving on to Rohit's question. Sir, I'm doing okay, guys. Firstly, don't call us sir, right? We are technically your batchmates. You can address us by first name basis. Next, I'm doing BCom honors from DU and BS diploma from IIT Madras. Can you please tell me what is the appropriate time to apply for CAT? Get one year, at least 1 to 2 years, 2 years of work experience. Midway through your first year, let us say between your first and second year of work, apply for CAT. By the time you enter your MBA, you will have 2 years of work experience, which will hold you in very high regards for your MBA. Right? By that time, you would have also covered most of the difficult part of the BS degree. And by that time, you can start focusing fully on your MBA once you make it to an IIM, which I really hope you do. Coming to Piyush's question, I'll be completing Bachelor's of Architecture next year and have developed an interest for large-scale real estate development projects. Would MBA be an appropriate way forward? Okay, that's a very case-specific question. But if it is more on the management side of things, if you want to work more in the funding side of things, not on the designing side, if you want to design buildings, if you want to design an architectural project, then no. MBA won't attach much value because it's not a designing course, it's a management course. Then it would be a good option. But if you want to move into the designing side, then not so much. Do IIMs have a state quota? No, they don't have a state quota. IIMs are equally open to all national, all students from all over the country. All right. Spandana's question, how important is it to have an extracurricular mentioned in your resume? Does it actually play a major role? Is it okay to not have it? It plays a very big role. It's not recommended that you don't have any extracurriculars. It plays a very big role in your selection. You need to give the interviewer something to talk about. You need to give them some weight in your profile, right? It helps with your personality development. It helps you grow as a manager, right? So as a person, as a manager. So it's important. Okay, Devashish, there's a question for you. Devashish, how did you get your consulting job before MBA? It is also kind of difficult.
Yeah, so actually I have a master's degree in economics, and it was a little bit serendipity and luck that I happened to get a job offer from Naukri.com. And I'll be honest, it wasn't a very high-flying paying job like after MBA that I would get, but definitely the role that I got was of an analyst. And I got a very nice role to crunch numbers and work in the insurance sector under the Exceedance Consulting, wherein I used to work for. So I already had a master's degree. Perhaps that's what helped me get. And also it was just a demand supply match. They needed somebody who is a fresher and master's in economics. So it was honestly a matter of chance and being at the right place at the right time. Yeah.
Right. Next question. Do we need to set which field in MBA are we interested in to work from the preparation itself? Not really. See, as per the IIM Act of India, you don't get an MBA in finance or marketing, you get an MBA, right? A general MBA. Now, if some companies come to campus that have, let us say, a specialization requirement, so your college can address if you have more than 50% electives in a certain domain. Like I have 50%, 55% electives in the finance domain. So my institute can mention it to the recruiter separately that I'm majoring in finance in my MBA. Other than that, it does not give you any specialization. So there is no need to go with a preconceived notion that I want to get into finance or I want to get into marketing. You can go explore courses in your first year, work somewhere, do multiple internships, find out, do an internship from your MBA, see where you want to go. All right. There is no need to set which field are you interested in.
Just to add to what Parth said, what he said is definitely right. But you should have a backup answer prepared if the interviewer just asks you, if he happens to ask you which field is of your interest. So you must have a view, because they would see if you have an orientation towards something in life or not. So based on your present experiences, present profile, think of something at least at the back of your mind, so that at least you have an answer to say when somebody questions you. But personally, you don't need to have. You can just explore it in your first year.
Right, great. Thank you, Devashish. Okay. SK, that's a very nice question. Do you guys have any plans for a startup in the near future? Maybe. See. Okay, so that's actually a very difficult question to answer because it's not like you plan that I'm going to do a startup and then you do it. It's when you get a great idea and then you decide to work on it. That's my view. Again, about Devashish, I think I might either concur or he might differ. So, Devashish,
So honestly, Parth had a knack of all of these startups, and my appetite for risk taking is almost zero. भाई मुझे पहले loan चुकाना है अपना, honestly. So I think Parth would be, I think he has an inclination and he has won a couple of I think awards as well for his startup ideas and all. But presently, I don't see myself doing anything risky at all. Especially, as far as my risk goes, I can work in a startup, but currently I am not in that position. I wouldn't want to rather be in that position to start a venture of my own.
Great. I mean, that depends from person to person, right? So more on your circumstances and where you are in life. So Smita Shivkumar, hi, I am doing my first year in engineering in ECE. I am more interested in investment banking and I'm also doing a course in trading basics from ISB. But how do I proceed after this? So first thing, get very good academic scores in your engineering in ECE. And also for investment banking, so keep doing courses. Preferably do a CFA also. You can start pursuing it from the final year of your undergrad. That shows a strong inclination towards finance. After your engineering in ECE, try getting a technical role at some investment bank, some major investment bank that you want to work in. And if it is investment banking specifically that you want to go to, then more than going to an IIM, what will matter is a CA or a CFA certification. I would recommend a CFA certification for investment banking. Mm-hmm. And investment banking roles, the best come at IIM Ahmedabad and IIM Calcutta. This year, very good ones also came at our institute, IIM Sambalpur. Tres Vista was the name of the company. They offered excellent roles in investment banking. So think of it in the long term. Keep doing courses, show your inclination, learn about it. Preferably get some work ex in it. Right? Right. Okay. So that's all in terms of the questions. I'll be available on the WhatsApp group. Tamajit, is it fine if we invite Devashish also to the WhatsApp group? Is it okay?
Sure, no, not an issue.
Not an issue. Okay, so great. So Devashish and I will both be present. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for joining in and for all your wonderful questions. It really got us thinking as well. We'll be happy to answer any more of them as they come along. So thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Parth.
Thank you, everyone. I hope we were worth your time. And if at all you need to ask any specific question, once I get added in the group, you guys can contact me as well. I would be happy to do that.
And thank you, Parth and Devashish as well, for taking the time out of your busy schedule and answering every question in such an elaborate manner.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Advait.
Thank you, guys, for joining. Please share your feedback. Your feedback really very valuable for us. Sir, you can stop the live streaming now.
Okay, I'll stop. Okay, once again.